Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Sunday morning service here at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Laguna Beach. My name is Pamela Floodman, and I will be serving as your substitute worship associate for today. Our music director is the talented Carol Cole, and our Zoom and audiovisual techs today are Don West Jr., Paul Bogdan, and Dara Skarecki. We are delighted that you have chosen to be present with us this morning, either here in the fellowship building where we are staying masked and physically distanced when necessary to keep each other safe, or if you're joining us virtually by Zoom. We are so lucky that we have all of these different ways in which we can join together. Throughout the service this morning, if you are here with us in the building, I invite you to come forward and light a candle here in the sanctuary in recognition of whatever you are carrying in your heart as you join us for worship today. Today, we welcome back to UUFLB Reverend Celia Young, who is joining us this morning to lead us in a service titled Learning to Make a Difference in the Troubled World. For many of us, this time seems to be almost apocalyptic. Climate change, wars, violence, poverty, the corruption of power, threats to democracy, the revocation of rights that have been part of the lives of women and families in this country for nearly 50 years. Today, Celia will be helping us to explore how can we find a place between running away from or drowning in the overwhelming suffering and still do good in the world. So I think today this is a message that we need to explore, to reflect on, and to act on. So welcome, Celia. We are so grateful you have chosen to be with us at UUFLB this morning. Each Sunday, anywhere there is a service held in a Unitarian Universalist congregation, a chalice is lit. The flaming chalice is the symbol of our faith. So if you have joined us this morning by Zoom, I invite you to light a chalice within your home as Celia lights the chalice for us here at UUFLB. And our chalice lighting words today are from the Reverend Jennifer Gray Grayson of the Tree of Life UU congregation in McHenry, Illinois. We come together every week, bound not by a creed or a mutual desire to please one God or many gods, yet we are drawn together by a belief that how we are in the world, who we are together, matters. We light this chalice together in the knowledge that love, not fear, can change this world. So thank you, Celia, for lighting our chalice this morning. At UUFLB, we are a welcoming congregation. Whatever has brought you here this morning, we welcome you to our community of mutual caring and serious intent to grow as spiritual and ethical beings. Many thanks this morning to everyone at UUFLB who works together each week to create opportunities for us to worship together and to be together in community, our board, our worship committee, everyone who helps prepare each week for the Sunday morning worship services, and the other events that we hold, such as the Zoom at noon discussion group. There are clearly so many committed hands working together. And I have to say, there are also always more opportunities and more to be done. So if you are looking for a way to become more involved, please reach out. If there is anyone joining us this morning who is new to our community, please connect with us after service if you would like to be added to our email mailing list so that you can receive advance notice of each service and of other events. Connecting with each other is the way that we are building community in this vibrant and growing congregation as a strong base from which we can go out and make a difference in the world. So I have just one major announcement for today, which is that today is the day for our annual congregational meeting as we're coming to the end of our congregational year and about to start a new congregational year. So following the service today, we will have a short time for people to greet each other, certainly greet Reverend Celia, who's here with us as our guest minister today. But then I think fairly quickly after that, settling down to be able to begin the annual meeting. And we will be holding it such that those who are joining by Zoom, as well as those here in the fellowship, can participate in the meeting together. What we'll do is gather chairs here around the front where the laptop will be set up with a strong microphone and speaker so that we'll be able to talk back and forth with those who are on the Zoom connection for the annual meeting as well. So I hope all of our members who are here today will be staying for the meeting, and guests and visitors are welcome also to stay for the annual meeting if they wish. Tom and Mike and Cindy, I guess, is there anything else you need me to announce about the annual meeting before we move on? Okay.
Come here. Come here.
Okay. So the important business, I'm going to repeat it because those on Zoom may not have been able to hear you, Tom. So part of the important business of the annual meeting will be to review and vote in the budget for the coming congregational year, and also vote on and bring in new individuals who will be serving the fellowship in the coming year on the board. So again, important business that we'll be doing today. So welcome to all. Again, as I said, it is good to be together this morning, and especially in all of the ways that we join together in worship. Dawn will now bring back up for us a slide that shows a list of upcoming service and events here within the UUFLB. Next Sunday on July 3rd, our minister, Reverend Raina Hamry, will be leading a service which she's titled True to Ourselves, Two Unitarian Women. And I think a service with a focus on the strong impact that women have had within this faith, an important focus for this time, I think, in our country. So we're grateful to Reverend Raina for bringing us that service next Sunday. After that, for the remaining weeks in July and the first week in August, we will be having a gathering each Sunday morning, which is a little different from our typical summer service. So we will be holding what we're calling a Summer Up program. UP stands for unique programming. And what we'll be doing throughout the month of July, starting on July 10th, and then through August 7th, is holding a gathering which will be a Zoom gathering only. So we will not be meeting here within the fellowship building, but we will hold a gathering each Sunday morning focused on our Summer Up program, which is going to be led by Don West Jr. And I hope that many of you are going to be able to attend. I'm planning to attend from New Hampshire while I'm away in New Hampshire. And the focus across the 5 weeks of the Summer Up program is on a book written by Reverend Nancy McDonald Ladd. And I know it was up on the slide, I think also, that Dawn just showed. The book is titled After the Good News, Progressive Faith Beyond Optimism. And I think through focusing on this topic, which really relates, I think, also to the topic that Reverend Celia is going to be talking with us today, we will help ourselves as a group to be in a position where we can engage with what's going on in our communities and in the world as an effective way as a UU congregation. I think it's going to spur good discussion. So each Sunday, there will be a gathering that includes some of the elements of our typical service, but also more discussion focused on a pair of chapters from this book each week. So again, you should be receiving information in e-blasts about this programming this summer, and I look forward to participating with many of you in that programming. As Unitarian Universalists, we have 7 principles which we hold as strong values and moral guides as we work to build our religious community together. And we live out these principles within a living tradition of wisdom and spirituality, which are drawn from so many sources, diverse sources as science, poetry, scripture, our own personal experiences. And when I was preparing for our service this morning, with its focus on how we prepare ourselves to be able to act in a time of challenge, I went back to reread and reflect on our 5th principle. As a Unitarian Universalist congregation, we affirm and promote the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. I think it's a principle many of us are keeping in mind in these days. And so we are so delighted this morning that Reverend Celia Young has chosen to be with us in worship and to lead us as we explore how we can do good in our challenging world. Celia is an interfaith chaplain. She's been ordained since I last had the chance to meet Celia in person, an authenticity coach and a spiritual activist. And as an immigrant, Celia has lived between the East and the West for her whole adult life, which has afforded her a unique life experience and worldview. For over 35 years, she has used who she is as a source in her consulting and coaching work to achieve social justice in Fortune 500 corporations, where she's worked to develop individual leaders and high-functioning work teams. And she also helps create healthy organizational cultures that value and nurture diverse talents and that foster innovation. So this is her ministry for the workplace, based on the authenticity and whole person development principle, where she helps leaders and employees become courageous enough to speak the truth, to stand on the highest value, and to model for change. And now, looking towards the last quarter of her life, Celia has expanded from workplace ministry to help heal traumatized and the suffering, mend the broken human spirit in larger society, and work to restore basic goodness of humanity. So again, thank you for joining us today, Celia, for being with us in a time of challenge and for helping us to find a way forward. If you read the e-blast that came out earlier this week, and I hope you did, the e-blasts are amazing, they're beautiful, and they're a wealth of information. And if you read it this week, you will have noticed that it listed Rachel Daniels as the worship associate for today. And you will also notice that I am not Rachel Daniels. While Rachel is unable to be here in person with us today, she has joined us by Zoom, and Rachel has put a lot of work into planning today's service together with our guest minister, Celia Young. And in planning this morning's service, Rachel has chosen 3 centering thoughts. I think just one thought couldn't capture what Rachel was thinking about this service. So as I read through the centering thoughts yesterday while I was preparing for this morning, I found that I agreed with Rachel that 3 centering thoughts work for today. Because these words helped bring me to a place of preparation to grapple with the topics that I think Reverend Young will be bringing to us today. So they will be up on the screen, and I invite you to read these words together with me if you wish, and for those of you on Zoom to unmute yourselves if you wish to join in the centering thoughts. The first quote this morning is from Thomas Paine, 18th century political activist, philosopher, revolutionary. And please read together with me. The world is my country. All mankind are my
brethren,
and
and
to
to
do
do good
is
is
my.
my religion.
Our second centering thought for this morning is from Malala Yousafzai. Words that are especially powerful and I think needed this week. So again, please read with me. I raise
I
up
raise up my voice,
not
not
so,
so I can shout,
but
but
so
so
that
that
those
those without a
voice
voice
heard.
can be heard.
We
We
cannot
cannot succeed
when
when
half
half of us
are
are
held.
held back.
And our final centering thought this morning is from Reverend Edward Everett Hale, 19th century Unitarian Universalist minister. And these words always remind me of how our community here at UUFLB, amongst the UU congregations in our area and beyond, how our community can ground us to have the power to go out and to do the work of justice. So please join me in reading. I am only one,
But
still
still I'm one.
I
I
cannot,
cannot do everything,
but
but
still,
still I can do something.
and
And
because
because I cannot do everything,
I will
I will
not
not refuse to do the something
that I can
that
do.
I can do.
Thank you all for being here and for participating in this congregation. Our opening hymn this morning is number 146 in the gray hymnal. Soon the day will arrive. For those of you who are joining by Zoom, the words will be in the chat, and I think we'll be set to have the audio coming both from Carol in her microphone at the piano, and then also the microphones that are picking up the piano music as well. So please join with our talented musical director, Carol Cole, in singing this beautiful hymn. We haven't sung it for a while. We don't sing it often, but it's beautiful. So please join in singing number 146, Soon the Day Will Arrive. And there are hymnals in the back if you have not got one.
Please join me. Soon the day will arrive when all will be together, and no longer will we live in fear. And the children will smile without wondering whether on that day thunder clouds will appear. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Some have dreams, some have died to make a bright tomorrow, and our vision remains in our hearts. Now the torch must be passed with new hope, not in sorrow, and a promise to make a new start. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me.
witness of the world. It is now we are called as witness of the world to mend it, to change its course, to restore it. It is now when we are called to act on our values, not to hide, not to fear, but to be bold and loud. It is now that we're called to continue our fight for justice, to organize, to speak up. It is now. Let us gather. Let us give each other courage. Let us worship.
Let us take a moment now to remind ourselves why we come together as a community. I invite you to read these words together when and if it feels right for you. And if you wish and you're on Zoom, please unmute your microphone. There is power in what we can achieve when we join our voices together. The words of the unison affirmation will be on your screens, and please join me in reading. Love
Love
is
is the spirit of this fellowship,
and
and
service
service is love.
and
This
service
This is our great
covenant
covenant, to
dwell
dwell together in
in
peace,
peace,
to seek the truth in love,
love
and to help one another.
We have come to a time in our service to briefly share the important events that have touched our lives in the past week. Our joys, when shared, are magnified. And when we share our sorrows, we can provide the support and care that are vital for all of us in community. During this time of sharing our joys and concerns, we have paused the recording of the service to one and support, because we value this fellowship as the sharing and supportive community that it is, where our sorrows, when we share them, can be acknowledged and lessened, and where our joys are amplified. So thank you all for sharing. And now we come to the time for our offertory, because it is as much a blessing to be able to give as it is to receive. And in this self-governing, self-sustaining community, we recognize that it is our responsibility to do both well. So now, as we approach the time for the offering, we invite you to give what you will for the work of this fellowship in our community here and in the world. On the slide that Dawn is showing are several ways in which you may give if you have not joined in person. And during the time of offering, we'll also be passing a basket here within the fellowship. We are empowered by the innumerable gifts of those who join in covenant with us. Our time, our hard work, compassion, humor, and our financial contribution. And we know that all of these gifts are needed for this fellowship and for its continued good work in the world. So please join us now in singing to each other words of sincere gratitude. And if you wish, so that you can easily sing them to each other. Stand as you are comfortable as we sing together, "From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live."
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
These words were adapted from Loving in Fear by Reverend Stephen Sheik. Spirit of life, God with many names, grant us the courage to love boldly in the face of our greatest fear. Grow us in your wisdom. Let our actions speak when silence threatens justice and indifference disturb peace. When gossip, hate, and cruelty arise among friends and in public places, help us bravely walk forward with love. When we defensively assert certainty in the presence of unknown, grant us the courage to live comfortably in the unanswerable question of life. Bless us with the eternal gift of not knowing, and let it take roots in us until it pushes forth shoots of understanding and branches of humility. Let us sit in silent meditation. Namaste, Shalom, Amen. Good morning. It is a great honor to be invited here to speak with you today. I chose this very lofty topic, not because I have found an answer for you, but to share with you some of my struggles and revelations. Hopefully, stories included in this talk will help inspire you. As a child, I was sheltered and loved unconditionally by my doting parents. Not until much later in my life did I have a better understanding of how my parents' suffering through 2 wars in China and becoming displaced people had an impact on me. As a teenager, I witnessed directly how my parents endured power corruption. Their pain became my pain. And as a person of color and a woman and an immigrant and a non-Christian, I've experienced varying degrees of discrimination in this country. For the last 35 years, I worked to bring social justice in the workplace by changing the organization culture so that it would value and nurture the diversity of its people. I thought I have seen it all and had all the answers. I was planning to slow down and ease into retired life from my consulting and coaching career. Then 2016, presidential election happened. After spending 4 long years gluing to the TV screen, and this threw me into a drowning sensation of despair and brokenheartedness, I was exhausted. At times, I even questioned why I kept on living. Then, out of self-preservation, I ran away from the TV and social media. It did buy me some breathing space to see the sunshine and hear the birds sing. If I just cast my eyes on my immediate environment, life seems to be normal and peaceful. But while I'm hiding in my little cocoon, the larger world has become more broken. It was not just about the election, but in the last 6 years, so many existential threats have pushed against our sense of well-being. These threats include climate change, pandemic, war, violence, poverty, power corruption, rising autocracy, etc. In the last 48 hours, the Supreme Court has expanded the gun rights, but killed the women's rights to make decisions about their own bodies. No amount of denial or insulation in our cocoon will stop the crisis from penetrating our lives. While the world seemed to head for apocalypse, I've been trying so hard to remember my belief that we humans are born good. That when a building is on fire, some people will run away, but some will run towards it. During any natural disaster, there are always people who came out to help others. Thousands of incidents like this happen every day that teach me underneath all the pain, suffering, ignorance, and evil, there's basic goodness that we're all born with. But somewhere in our life, we humans have made a detour from our divine selves and became fragmented, broken, and separated. That led to these crises. This is how our society become us versus them, either or, a binary thinking culture that is the basis of every battle. Following the Buddha's teaching of non-separation and the Yu's teaching of interdependence, I felt the call to help wake up people, restore their basic goodness, and reconnect us as one human spirit. But to answer the call, I came face to face with my own vulnerability. I wondered if I was ready and have enough courage to stand up against the tidal wave of injustice and destruction. All I also need is confront my own judgment, fear, despair, hatred towards what I deem as evil. This has started my spiritual discernment journey until today. Like many people, avoiding any bad news is my way of self-preservation. But the question is, by us looking away, how will the world change? Without our bearing witness, do the trauma, tragedy, and atrocity just go away? When we worry too much about getting overwhelmed, who will step in? Bearing witness takes courage. It can at least prevent these atrocities from becoming an inevitable part of modern life. On the one hand, drowning and being overwhelmed by the bad news can lead to despair and helplessness. This causes paralysis that will harm our health and our lives. On the other hand, when we run away and hide from bad news for the sake of self-preservation, our personal life might have been spared from these traumas, but how long would the little cocoon we build keep us safe and peaceful while the rest of the world is on fire? At either end, our denial and paralysis have stopped us from making any difference in the world. So the key is to find a space between these two poles where we have enough courage to make change happen. To examine our courage, we need to look at our fears. Talking about fear, I have a big monkey mind sitting on my shoulder with his arm crossed and says, "That's too dangerous. You're gonna get hurt." Fear of drowning, being overwhelmed is a big fear. The monkey mind is not just mine, it's yours too. It says, "Who do you think you are? What makes you qualified to change the world? How do you know you're good enough? You're too old. Does not matter what you do, it's not going to make any difference. And the monkey mind for us, you will also say, hey, we need to analyze this some more. Often in the racial justice workshops I ran, white folks would wring their hands, expressing their anguish over how racism continued to permeate our society, and they're feeling helpless toward combating this social illness. All these fears, including fear of failure, not doing it perfectly, getting hurt, not being good enough, being overwhelmed, making mistakes, etc., often cause very smart and well-intended people, including myself, to become paralyzed into inaction. Last month, I went to visit my old friends, whom I'll call John and Mary, on the East Coast. John's cancer has metastasized into his bones. Instead of continuing the treatment without any hope for cure, he decided to enter hospice care after consulting with Mary. We have several deep conversations about the act of letting go. He shared Paul Tillich's quote, "The courage to die is the test of courage to be." Since life is precious and impermanent, all we got is the present moment. That is why John is still doing is letting go of control of his life, but taking control every moment he lives. I watched him continue to follow his conviction to do social justice work from his wheelchair. I watched Mary go around picking up most of the work in their life that used to be shared by both of them with such strength, grace, and flexibility. Their courage and quiet determination made me wonder, what is it I'm waiting for to do what I'm called to do? Remembering both Buddhism and you have taught us to learn from direct experience, I accepted an offer to work as an intern chaplain in a hospital last summer to find out what I was made of and if I had enough spiritual grounding to do the work. I must admit I was full of apprehension because although the hospital is supposed to provide interfaith care, but the culture we encounter among the patients and the fellow chaplains is still Christian. This was the source of my anxiety when I started my internship. The term chaplaincy came from Christianity. This was also my source of fear. If I'm not a Christian, nor do I believe in God, can I still be a chaplain? But I decided to accept the assignment because I wanted to have a firsthand direct experience to help me decide if this is something I'm called to do. And I want to find out if I have deep enough compassion and conviction to help ease people's pain and suffering. During that summer, I learned how much power I had wearing the chaplain's badge. The patients were forced to lay in their bed in nothing but a thin hospital gown with most of their dignity stripped away. Often for a whole day, they were left to face their pain and suffering all alone. By showing up next to their bed, I'm the only lifeline they had. Most of the time, the patients were so happy that someone came to visit them and listen to their concern, anxiety, and fear. I offer comfort and support to them. I learned to do my best to offer them prayers according to my meaning of spirituality. One day during a typical visit to ICU, I met two sisters who were grieving for their dying father after knowing there was nothing medically could be done. The minute they saw me, they came over and each grabbed one of my shoulders and started to wail with their prayers. They called out to God to take their father home. All I did was stand firmly and offer my body like a tree for them to lean on. At that moment, I realized my work is to be that tree. Almost every day, I will be called to answer code blue, where the medical staff tried to resuscitate a patient who stopped breathing. During one such code blue situation, neither the patient nor his family signed a DNR, a do not resuscitate order. So the medical staff were legally obligated to keep pumping his chest. Standing in the room, I could hear the patient's rib cracking and see the blood coming up the tubes. Between the first and second code, the doctor tried but failed to persuade the patient's daughter to sign a DNR. My heart broke for this 90-year-old man who would not have a chance to die in peace. I wanted so much to say, hey, stop, to the daughter, stop. But I realized it. Hey, maybe the daughter wants every opportunity given so the father can live. Who am I to say what's the most loving thing to do at that moment? I realized my job is to bear witness of all the suffering around. By the time I completed my internship, I have learned to be more of my true self and more compassionate toward my fellow human beings. When a person is stripped down to a thin hospital gown, suddenly they come face to face with their truth, with no place to hide. In those precious moments, I can catch a glimpse of their humanity. I'm also grateful for the challenges I face because they allow me to deepen my understanding of my faith. Recently, I have finished updating my will and trust. Planning the ending of my life had me take stock of my life for 10,000th time. For the most of my life, I dream about changing the world. As the world seems to descend into apocalypse, I do not feel I can save the world from the edge of destruction alone. At times when I'm struggling to practice loving kindness, I feel helpless and hopeless. My heart continues to break. I wonder what happened to my dreams. If I don't join the fight on the front line as a soldier or a doctor, am I still a good person? Good enough to be a chaplain? Then the monkey mind chimed in again. How do you know you have made any difference? When I help feed a handful of unhoused people, how would I know I have solved the housing and poverty problem? Buddhists teach us to do what we can with what we have and from where we are. It all sounds such good advice, but I didn't feel satisfied. Then I was reminded that there is a difference between transitional change and transformational change. The former makes constant improvement to the existing structure drip by drip, like helping one person at a time. The latter disrupt the whole structure and build a new system like a storm. Either approach has a place in the society, and societal and systemic change take a long time, and it seldom follows a straight line. But change is coming. Although right now it feels like we're going backwards. The universe is vast and infinite. Often, no matter how much we thought we have done, we're still just tiny little molecules. Perhaps we need to think small. When I heard the children in the cage crying out for their mothers on the border, my heart shattered but open. I became aware that I'm alive and awake. We all need to stay awake in the moment of pain like this and not run away. We cannot let a tragedy like this and wars and daily gun violence, assault on women's rights, and deteriorating institutions, to name a few, become a norm of our normal life. Facing insurmountable hunger, Mother Teresa just did her part to feed one person at a time. All we can do is to help reduce suffering and restore basic goodness in our humanity, one person at a time. Like using a spoon to bail out the flood water. My Buddhist teacher said, we do the work because it is our work to do without expecting any results. Since we're not separate from the collective spirit, I know that we're not alone and not separate, and we must believe that more people are out there trying to make a difference with their spoons too. In her book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, Susan Jeffers encourages us to take our fears as our traveling companions on the road to fulfill our life's purpose. After struggling so much, I came to realize that the real spiritual journey lies in the space where we have fear and doubt, but keep choosing to engage in more direct experience and have more direct impact. I pray that when all of us let go of false boundaries and let our true essence shine through, we will be able to pick up our broken pieces and become whole again. Then we'll have a chance to reclaim our collective spirit and divine and make this a better world. Franklin D. Roosevelt said, courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the assessment that something else is more important than fear. This something else is a voice, different than the monkey mind, strong and persistent, that haunts us to act. It demands that we answer the call as true UUs. In summary, I offer the following tips. If you are looking for a way to do your part to make a difference in this troubled world, first, have an honest conversation with your fears and come up with a strategy to travel with them. Second, change doesn't happen by you hiding under the cover or getting buried in despair. Third, start something small. Fourth, be in community so you know there are others out there with their spoons. Fifth, be gentle to yourself, regardless what your monkey mind says. Before I end my sermon, I'd like to pose these questions to you. First, what is the voice in you that demands you answer the call and would not take no for an answer? Second, what are you willing to feel your fear and do it anyway? May it be so.
Thank you, Celia. Our closing hymn this morning is number 168, One More Step. And the hymnals, it will be in your gray hymnal. And for those who are joining us by Zoom, the words will be in the chat. So please join Carol by singing or humming along to the words of this hymn. And I think we'll be getting the microphones set so that the piano mic and the choir mic are up. Good, great.
One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us, and everyone will take one more step. One more word, we will say one more word, till every word is heard by everyone. Will take one more word. One more prayer, we will say one more prayer, one. We'll say one more prayer, one more song. We will sing one more song till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song.
Now is the time for us to extinguish the chalice here at UUFLB and within our homes. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
To quote the words from Reverend Barbara Wells' 10th Hove called Enough, may each of us have enough trust in life that our fears will burn away. May each of us have enough hope in the future that we will let go of despair and work to leave a better world for our children. May each of us have enough love for each other that we'll abandon hatred and never fail to notice the great miracle that is the human spirit. May each of us have enough courage to face the challenges of our troubled world so that we may act with trust, hope, and love in the face of fear, despair, and hatred. Now go in peace.
Now please stand, if you wish, form a circle as we sing our closing song, Let There Be Peace on Earth.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With earth as our mother, we are family. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Have a lovely day.